Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm very excited to answer these questions for Authority Magazine. And let me just tell you 5 things that I think are really important about running a purpose-driven business. The first thing is when you're building a business that actually means something, you've got to make sure that your purpose actually solves a problem. When I left Big Four accounting to start Mastel, everyone expected some big inspirational mission statement. You know the type, empowering nonprofits to change the world. But here's what I learned. You can't build a business on aspirations. Your purpose has to actually solve something. So solve the real problem that nonprofits have are they're lying awake at 3 a.m., terrified of their financials. Not because they don't care, but because they're passionate about saving wildlife or architectural preservation, right? They're really worried about spreadsheets. So my purpose became crystal clear. Help nonprofits stop being scared of numbers so they can focus on their actual mission. One client was pretty clear about it. He said, "You make us proud to talk about our vision because your work makes it real and measurable." They don't need me to give them inspiration. They're inspired by their work every day, but they need me and my work to help them prove that their work is impactful for their donors and their foundations and their board. So we're doing a little piece to help them get the most from their outcome. The second thing I would say is you need to be able to prove that it works, their mission and your mission. So at the Wildlife Conservation Network, for example, we guaranteed our results, right? We gave them back 20% of their time. We saved them close to $500,000 annually, and we reduced the amount of time they spent under audit to less than a month each year, which was like almost a year before that. But I think the thing that I'm most proud of is that we actually changed how their board meetings happened and what happened in those board meetings, right? They didn't talk about sort of what was happening for the organization. They talked about what was happening in the world. And that's a big change for a nonprofit board, right? They stopped thinking about what they needed because the packets and the financials told them what they needed. They didn't need to discuss that. What they discussed was how the world was depending on them. And that was a really interesting shift because the truth is the world is depending on nonprofit organization. And so I have always believed. Third point about running a purpose-driven business, which is you have to be courageous. In particular, you have to be courageous about saying no to certain organizations. So early on, there was a really large NGO which offered us a 6-figure contract. They wanted us to rubber stamp a decision they'd already made. They really were asking us to protect them in that decision. They didn't really want us to help them find solutions. So I walked away from it, and my team thought I was insane. But 6 months later, another client called us, and they really needed some honest solutions. And we were available and credible because other clients vouched that we were telling the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. So what's our business model? My fourth big point, I would say, is that unless you're a law firm, you don't really want to structure so that the corporate work pays for the nonprofit charity. They actually work in concert with each other. I do the same work for-profit organizations who are looking to do purpose work as I do with nonprofit organizations. Cost optimization, operational efficiency, they're just redirected in the same way. So when market conditions tighten, we're able to be helpful to all of our clients, right? And I'm not choosing between the purpose and the profit, right? My purpose is my business model. So that leads me to my fifth and probably most cryptic point, which is you got to be patient in the short term, but really aggressive in the long term thinking. And that means that it is tough for businesses that have spent the last 55 years of their existence and people who have known nothing different than profit to start thinking about purpose. And you have to be patient with them because they're going to need some time to think about what it means to have empathy in their business. They've been chasing fiduciary duty and whatever mis-ideas they've had about fiduciary duty for as long as they've been working. And you have to be patient with them while they figure out something else. However, the good news is that once they get it, they will get it in a very big way. Your board members who go from thinking that they are there to advise you to understanding that they are supporting not just the scaffolding of your nonprofit, of the nonprofits or the organizations that they support, but also the organizations that rely on them and the organizations that rely on them. You are building a pay it forward network, right? That will evangelize itself into the community, right? And the empathy that we are trying to build in this world that will make this place and civilization better, right? It will take time, but it compounds, right? Nothing like that can happen if you optimize for quick wins. However, you need to be aggressive. You need to be talking to as many people in order to compound as many wins as you can. So you need to be aggressive. You need to find as many people you can start the process with as you can all the time. And so there is enough to go around, but you need to be spreading your message far and wide. So I just want to say that a purpose-driven business isn't a nonprofit with revenue. It's a disciplined operation where your reason for existing and your path to profitability are exactly the same thing. My Georgetown education taught me something that 20 years of working in nonprofits has reinforced. Giving back isn't about sacrifice. It's actually about designing a life where your work and your values and your financial sustainability all point to the same North Star. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I can't imagine living a life where those things are in conflict. And I encourage you to try it because it's really quite magical to be able to have all of those things working in synergy. Thanks so much for listening. Really enjoyed these questions and reach out to me if there's anything I can do for you. Take care.